Hello and welcome to the latest edition of View from the Bridge. My name is Joel Amy and I'm joined today by very special guests. Sure, I'd love to introduce themselves and the podcast that they run. Gents, Hector and Mark, fire away. Tell us all a bit about what you do and your podcast and your work in cricket.
Yeah, hi Joel. Thanks very much for having us on. I'm Hector Vickers and I'm with Mark Church and we're running a podcast called The Sunday Service, Church and Vickers. We're actually recording an episode today as well, so we're doubling up, which is nice. And basically each week we just have a different guest on to talk about a different job in cricket and how people can get into it if anyone listening. For example, if someone's a groundsman, we'll have an episode out where sort of with a groundsman telling you how to do stuff like that. And yeah, it's great fun. We do it every week and we're part of Newbury, so yeah, I think we've got a year of an episode every week. So yeah, it's great fun. Thank you.
Yeah, and well, Hector said who I am. So I'm Mark Church. I do the podcast with Hector, obviously, and I have done the ball-by-ball commentary for the BBC on Surrey for I think this will be my 27th season of doing Surrey for the BBC. So yeah, that's what I do. And yeah, it's great doing the podcast with Hector. I get to do a cricketing sermon every week, which I'll be honest with you, Joel, enables me to get a few things off my chest in the right way, in the right manner. And then we've got a very hard-hitting feature called Whose Cricket Book Is This?, where I read an extract from a cricket book and people have to guess whose cricket book it is. So yeah, that's the podcast, and away from that, obviously, I do the ball-by-ball commentary for the BBC as well.
No, I like listening to your podcast. Obviously, you had Chief Executive of Essex on last week, had Rory Burns on, Andy Flower. So nice mix of guests as well among some of those, and some journalists as well. And obviously, we our focus is on the county game, and obviously, there's a lot of talk about finances and stuff like that, but I thought what would be nice, obviously, with your sort of Surrey hats on, to talk a bit about, I wouldn't say a rivalry between the two sides. Obviously, it was sort of 1 year last year, but your impressions of both teams, the county game, and how they kind of Surrey are sort of faring for this season. Because I'm anticipating a bit of a backlash, I suppose, from after losing their title.
Yeah, I think from a Surrey perspective, nothing will change. They don't really need to change personnel or squad. I think they put their hands up and said last season they weren't at their best for the whole season. And I think that's made them more hungry now. I think it's an interesting one for both Notts and for Surrey, actually, because for the first time in what will it be, 3 years, 4 years, Surrey won't be the team being chased. It'll be Notts, the team being chased. And it's a different psychology, that really. So I think from a Surrey perspective, as I say, I don't think anything will change. I expect them to be there or thereabouts, challenging again. I thought Nottinghamshire deserved to win it last year because it all came down to that one game. And both sides had opportunities to win, but it was Notts that eventually took it. And I've said this to a few people. Josh Tong's spell there at the end was one of the best spells I've seen. It was a proper spell of quick bowling. And what I liked about it was the captain threw him the ball and said, "Get this done for me." And that's exactly what he did. So I thought Notts deserved to win that. Surrey could have won it. There was a moment there where Tom Curran and Dan Lawrence were going well. Then we had our one over of spin, and that did for Tom Curran. And as the door opened, Notts went straight through it. So I think from a Surrey perspective, yeah, they weren't at their best last season. They hung in there. But as I say, for the first time in 4 years, they'll be the ones doing the chasing. And I suppose from a Nottinghamshire point of view, it'll be a different psychology for them to be the side that everybody is trying to knock off the top.
Yeah, and if I could just add to that, as Churchy was saying, Surrey, it's not exactly panic stations for them. That they know that they're sort of natural winners. And in terms of signing players, they don't need to. But if you look at maybe the likes of Ollie Pope, who might not be involved with England come this summer in the Test match circuit. So if he's playing more of a full-time role at Surrey, Jamie Smith is doing a bit less of the white ball stuff for England. So Surrey will actually get more players back. So at the beginning of the season, you'll look at batting order and bowling lineup, and it'll be stronger than ever. So yeah, and that game I wasn't at it, but I was listening to Churchy on commentary, and it was kind of the perfect game to sort of sum up what the county championship should be. It shouldn't be one team rising far higher than the other. It sort of ebbs and flows and goes back and forth. And yeah, it was great to listen to and watch bits when I could. But yeah, very excited for this season.
The only disappointment for me was they only met each other the once.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing was, and Notts might get a bit of this themselves this season, and I totally got it, that when Surrey went away, they played on a lot of flat pitches. And of course, we had the Kookaburra as well, which we haven't got this year. Now, Surrey put their hands up and said we didn't come up with good enough plans on those pitches until they got their spinners in. And they won 2 Kookaburra games. The one at New Road, well, the pitch just blew up on the second day, really, at New Road. And up at Durham, it was Syker Shaw with his left arm spin. So it's an interesting one that I think Notts might find a bit of that themselves this season. And you've got to work out your plans of how you're going to go about that on pitches. I get it, really. You know, if you're coming up against a Notts bowling attack or a Surrey bowling attack, there's so many options there, and they're both pretty relentless bowling attacks, really. So yeah, that was interesting, but that's something that Surrey have looked at for this season, and they'll come up with some different plans for that. If again, when they go away from home, they find that pitches don't do a great deal for them.
Interesting. So obviously, when Notts in the 4 Kookaburra rounds last season, they drew every single match. And then obviously in other matches, Josh Tongue was the point of difference, but his availability will be compromised, I would imagine, quite a lot this season. So, I mean, what has Surrey kind of done in terms of their bowling? Well, we've seen Kemar Roach has gone to Durham. I mean, well, how is Surrey lining up from a bowling perspective?
Well, there won't be any changes because they don't really need to. Now, everybody says, they haven't got a world-class spinner. Well, we saw what they did last year. We're getting Syker Shaw in. He loved it, and I'm sure he would want to come back if that was the case. But the other thing is that they do have Will Jacks. Now, how much Will Jacks is going to be available this season, we'll have to wait to see. And I'll throw Ralphie Albert in there as well, who in the one championship game he played, to say he impressed everybody would be an understatement. So they have got spin here. But actually, you look at their bowling attack and pace attack, and I think probably what happened last summer was they actually struggled to take those 20 wickets, which they've been doing on a regular basis, really. But they don't need to change anything because they've got those bowlers that have done it for them time and time again. They all know exactly what their job is in the side. So, as I say, there won't be... Well, there's not going to be any changes, really. It will be exactly the same personnel again. And it's just like for Notts as well, it's keeping everybody fit and on the paddock, really. But if they do get to a point where they say to themselves, look, we do need a spinner, if Jacks is available, Jacks will play. Ralphie Albert could play. And obviously, if he's available, they get Syker Shaw back because he was great and he really, really enjoyed it as well. And Chahar as well. Sorry. And of course, he came in for the last game with his leggies and took wickets. So and he loved it as well. So they've got those options. But I think I would. Do you know what? If Will Jacks wasn't available, I'd love to see Ralphie Albert get a little run in the side.
I was going to say on Ralphie Albert, actually, obviously, one game in the championship did really well, had a couple games or a few games maybe in the one day cup at the back end when he was brought in, and again there he did really well. I was out in Zimbabwe for the under-19 World Cup, and all the way through he is just a really consistent bowler, and you can say fine, it's the under-19, so there's a bit of a disparity between talent there. But then you look at that final where Surrey Vanchi obviously scored all those runs. Ralphie Albert was brought on, and I think he went at 6.5 or something, but just in comparison to the damage that was done, he really does, throw in the ball and he does offer you control, and he can do it against some world-class players.
Joel, being an old man, okay, give him time. Don't get
Well,
too,
yeah,
but
yeah.
he's played one game of championship cricket where he did impress everybody, but still a very young man. But what I would like to see is him getting a go, and Dan Lawrence as well. The interesting thing with Dan was last year when they needed a breakthrough, they bunged the ball to Dan, and he more often than not got it. So they've got those spin options there, but going into the summer, it'll just be all about that pace attack again, I would have thought. And the batting takes care of itself. That's the thing. Whoever they put in there, that top 6, top 7, it's a pretty strong top 6, top 7, whoever's available, really.
Yeah, you mentioned Rafi Albert. So he played against Notts in the One Day Cup as well last year. 96 of 75 balls. He's got the scorecard here. So, not just a bowler, very, very good all round, and 2 wickets in the match as well. So.
And it was in that Hampshire game, it was his batting that impressed in the second innings, because Surrey were in trouble, and he just came out there, and it had. I remember the first time that Jamie Smith walked out to bat for Surrey, and you just sat there and went, "Hang on, this kid is so level-headed, it's ridiculous." And it was exactly the same with Ralphie against, Carl Abbott trying to take his head off, and he got through that, and then put on 50 odd with Dan Lawrence, where Ralphie got about 40 of them, and Dan just stood at the other end and admired what Ralphie was doing. But again, look, he's only played one game of championship cricket, but he's a talented boy, and as I say, it would be nice to see him get a bit of a go this season in the championship.
I suppose you can draw comparisons with Farhan Ahmed. We know he's talented and brilliant, but the concern is opportunities. Liam Patterson-White came in last season, did amazing with bat and ball. Farhan's opportunities kind of went limited, and I suppose there's always a concern, isn't it, that don't get the game time, isn't it? I suppose.
Well, it's been that's been the conundrum for a number of years now, hasn't it? You look at Shoaib Bashir; he's had to go to Derby because he can't get a game for Somerset. So that's what being a spinner in this country is a tough old job. It really is. And let's be honest, when we hit April, although last year the sun was shining, wasn't it? But it's not often you get a spinner doing a huge amount in April and May, really. And with the way the schedule is, it's not like it used to be, where those summer months, the sun was out, the pitches started turning. It's not like that anymore. So being a young spinner is a tough old job in championship cricket.
And what I'd say, Joel, you mentioned Farhan not getting a go. I actually think that's quite a good thing. We know that Farhan Ahmed is an exceptional talent, and he will have a long career. Maybe not 100% in England colours, but certainly as a professional. And the same with Ralphie, same with your Thomas Roos. I think it's quite a good thing. One thing with Bazball is that they're bleeding players really early, and that could be good short term, but I'm worried that it might be a bit detrimental in the long run. So for the likes of Farhan, if he's spending time around the squad, but he's not sort of promoted, he's the next big thing. If he has to sort of earn his stripes a bit more, I think that can only be a good thing for his long-term career.
It depends how long Brendan's with England, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
It really does. So look, there's some talented boys out there. That under-19 World Cup, you saw there was some talent. They've got to knock people out the team as well. That's the other thing. You can be a talented youngster, but if you're in an established squad, you have to wait your turn and wait for those players that you've either got to knock them out of the team, or you've got to wait until they either are not in form or they're off playing international cricket, and you've got to stay patient. But yeah, he's a talent. Young Mr. Ahmed's a talent. Ralphie Albert's a talent. And it would be great to see these lads getting a bit of a go in the championship. It really would.
Well, I was going to say, we were talking about spinners maybe having progressed. I mean, Amir Verdi got 14 wickets at Trent Bridge 6 years ago.
Yeah. And the other thing there with Verds was he was a hugely talented off spinner. But then Will Jacks came in, and basically that Gareth Batty simplified Will Jacks' role for him and said, you'll be batting at 6 or 7 and you will be bowling spin for us. And he had a terrific season, because Amar was a huge part of Surrey winning that championship in 2018. But you see, it's the patience thing, and it's wanting success as well. And I understand it. I get it. I really do, because especially in the world we live in now, there isn't much patience out there. There really isn't. People want success straight away. So it's a double-edged sword, really, because yeah, that can happen and it could destroy a player's career. But if we're looking at England and we want spinners playing for England, then they've got to play some championship cricket, because I think we've seen that with Bashir, he's talented, don't get me wrong, but he hasn't bowled enough overs, really. And he doesn't know his own game. How old was Graham Swan when he made his debut? You know, by the time G Swan made his debut, he knew how to bowl. I'm not sure Bashir does. So it's always been that conundrum. It's always been that how do you get a spinner into a side to get enough overs under their belt to know their own game and how to bowl? And as Swan said, he only had 2 deliveries, really. He had an off spinner and he had the one that went on. But his control and his drift, by the time he made that debut in India, and what did he do? Take 2 wickets in his first over on debut. He knew his game. He knew how to bowl. But the only way you learn that is by playing championship cricket.
I was going to say Verdi's figures at Trent Bridge 7 years ago now, or 6.5 years ago, the second best against Notts since 1953.
Yeah, he bowled brilliantly. Well, because who was it? Who was the Indian off spinner? His name?
We had Ashwin. Yeah,
that was it. So and Ashwin obviously then came to Surrey for a game the next season. But I remember arriving at Trent Bridge and it was going to be the Ashwin show, because the pitch was going to turn, and then Amar out bowled Ashwin. So yeah, he was huge. He was hugely talented. But I think it was that whole thing of Will Jacks. That was his role, and he did it brilliantly. And you know, you see where Will Jacks is now. So, and I was hoping, for Amar's sake, really, I was hoping that a county would come and pick him up. That's what I was hoping, but it never really. He went on loan, but it never, Worcestershire, but it never really. It was never going to be a permanent deal, unfortunately. So, but again, that shows that conundrum with the spinners in championship cricket.
Yeah. Right. We'll talk. We'll get a bit more info about about the Surrey from a Surrey's perspective. Can't get my words out. From a Surrey perspective, obviously, what I found quite interesting about Surrey last year was, one, the number of people who were attending the championship matches, and there was a big drive there to get people in for 4-day cricket. And the narrative was different to what we hear from elsewhere. It wasn't no one's interested in red ball cricket. Actually, it was, if we make a bit of an effort, people will come and they'll enjoy it. And I find that quite refreshing. So interested to get your take on that, but also the live stream as well. I mean, again, it's a quality production that's put on. I feel like Surrey, one of those sort of 4 or 5 counties who really make an effort with that.
Yeah, I think that is a real conscious decision. Just on the attendances, it really was, as you say, it's not red ball cricket's dead. It was a sort of a celebration of cricket all throughout the season. And one of the great things about the Oval, as I know they do at other grounds, is sort of allowing fans and you know, kids onto the pitch at the intervals to sort of have a bowl and have a field. And it really is an interactive experience. It's not just you come here and watch the cricket on T20s. They've got, you know, these kids areas, and there is a massive effort, I think, goes into sort of encouraging people to come, not just to watch the cricket, but to have a day out in other ways as well. And on the live stream, it does seem, from my point of view as well, I haven't done much on it. Church will know more than me, but from when I'm there, they work so hard on it, and the producers are sort of always thinking of new ideas to try and draw more people in, and I think it showed in the viewing figures over the summer. I think it's quite successful.
Yeah, what I would say is, this is like Trent Bridge. This is a great ground to come to, and I think the other thing with it is Surrey are a good side to watch. They got some good names in that side, and also it's where this ground is in London. And I think what you find is a lot of people come here to have a good day out. And I think even if they're not watching a huge amount of the cricket, you just have to walk around this ground now, and there's always something to look at or something to read, and there's, you know, bars and food, and wherever you sit in the ground, you've got a good view of the action. The weather helps as well. We had good weather at the start of last season. So I just think it's a good ground to come and watch cricket and have a good day out with the live stream. The thing with Surrey is they've always been almost the first there with any new ideas. So I remember when Surrey TV started back in 2007, and that was highlights and interviews and features, and it was the first time really with Sussex did it as well, that there was video footage, and then with the social media stuff, and I think with the streams they do it right. They've got all the cameras in. I always describe the Surrey stream as a bit like Sky Sports was 2-3 years ago. So it's a great look. They do it really, really well. And from a personal point of view, I think the ECB should be throwing money at it. And I think every county should be getting money from the ECB to have that product looking the way it should look, really. But that's a discussion for someone else. But yeah, no, they always have here. They've always been quite forward thinking with what they do to get the team out there. Although, of course, I remember Notts were the first to do magnificent sort of build-ups to the T20 with the ones they did where aliens came down and invaded Nottinghamshire, and those were brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But it's the way everybody does it now, isn't it? Gone are the days of you used to just get an email saying so and so had signed. Now it's sort of almost a big video production to unveil your new signing, isn't it? So it's just the direction of travel. But I think Surrey have always been good at that, good at doing that sort of stuff.
And as you say, just to put it simply, what's better? You're a 7-year-old watching all these players. Your Ollie Popes, your Jamie Smiths, Will Jacks on TV at Test matches, which cost a lot of money nowadays to go and watch. It's quite hard to actually go and watch international cricket. And sorry, a lot of people joke about it, but the amount of international players they have and franchise players they have, I mean, how good is it to go down to the Oval on a Saturday afternoon in the sun and watch Ollie Pope score double hundreds with all this entertainment on? Just to put it simply, it kind of helps itself just with the players that they have and the ground.
No, I mean, I've been a vocal thing on our podcast about the fact that they need to start having a free-to-air highlights package after each round of championship fixtures. Sorry, to have to show, it's not about showing everything, but Ben Stokes is playing for Durham and whacks 100. Why not show 3-4 minutes of that? Show Josh Tongue steaming in and taking a 5. Put that on for an hour, that sort of stuff, bit of analysis. Other sports do it, and yet everything county cricket does feels like it's hidden away, almost like we're embarrassed. It has to be on YouTube. Sky don't really tend to show much now, or they don't really sort of give it, even on like their website or Sky Sports News. It feels like county cricket's kind of an afterthought a lot of the time. Which is,
I think county cricket is competing against an awful lot of other products in cricket now, and I think actually I'm not sure that will ever happen, if I'm honest with you, Joel. I'm not sure you'll get that, but I think what should happen is that there should be a bit more backup to promote what the counties are doing with their live streams, without a shadow of a doubt. I really do think that, and also what you see now as well is that the certain counties, their production's so good that you mentioned Sky there, that Sky actually take their live stream and the commentators in. So that shows how good the standard is. They're happy to put it on Sky Cricket because it looks good enough to be on Sky Cricket. So, that is a good thing. But I think I would be surprised if that ever happened. I understand what you're saying, but it's competing against so many different elements now that I think actually probably the way forward is to give the streams a bit more backup So that you could, as you say, have a little program where there's someone sat there and they're going at the end of the day's play. Let's have a look at what happened with Ben Stokes at Durham, or now let's go and see Joe Root batting for Yorkshire. But I think the only place that could happen is on the ECB website. And I know they have highlights on there, obviously, but I think if you're ever going to have a program like that, I think the one place that it would happen would be on the ECB website.
Yeah. One final Surrey question I would like to ask: the perception of Surrey is a club. I think there's a thought that the money bag Surrey may be a bit of arrogance, but I think it's a bit unfair at times. Surrey produce a lot of their own players, a lot of England players. What do you kind of think about how Surrey are perceived, and do you think it's fair?
I think there was I understood that probably 10 years ago now, when they were throwing money at players and getting players in, and they weren't the right players. And then they started putting their academy players in, and it wasn't luck really that all these lads now that are going off and playing for England all came through the academy together, had all played a lot of cricket together. And then you add in a couple. Now, adding Sangakkara helps at that point. And Kumar was a huge influence on this place. He really was. And everybody, what always makes me laugh is Moneybag Surrey. But you've got to go and pick the right overseas player as well. Now, I know you can't get one for a whole summer now. But, I look at other counties at times, and it seems to be like, every 3 weeks someone's arriving at the airport and driving to the ground. Now, Surrey did a bit of that last year with the two spinners coming in, but actually they've been pretty consistent with their overseas over the last 3, 4, 5 years. You mentioned Kemar there, Abbott, of course. But what the core of this Surrey side now, if you go through the 11, they've gone through the academy together, and you look at Jordan Clark and you look at Ben Folkes, they've been here, 7, 8 years now. So, they've been here a long, long time. But I understand what people were saying, and I got that when they were throwing money at players and getting players in, and they weren't the right players. I could get that. I totally got that. I don't think there's an arrogance with this mob at all. I just think they know they're a good side. I think it's more a quiet confidence. I don't see the so-called Surrey strut anymore, because I don't think they need to do it. I think when you've won 3 on the spin, you don't really need to be strutting around the place, because everybody knows you're a good side. So I don't see any of that now. But what will be really fascinating for me is how they go this season. That will be very interesting, and I think they'll go very well, because as I say, I think they're hungry because they didn't like not winning the championship last season. But no, I think now I understand it. I get it. I think people look at this place as well. And what you have to remember with this place is it's a business on its own. Just the event side of things here, it's 365 days of the year. There are big, huge events taking place here all the time that have nothing to do with cricket whatsoever. And it's London as well. That's the other thing. And London's like everywhere in the country now, but London is always been hugely expensive. But there isn't that now. I think anybody who jumps on that now, really, I think that all they're doing really is sort of going with what the traditional Surrey strut that you used to hear about. It's not the case anymore.
It's really, as you say, Joel, it's actually quite a frustrating stereotype, because I haven't been around the club for a long time. I've been a fan for ages, but just sort of from brief interactions with players that you'd think, and I would think as well, sort of watch them on TV, they do have a bit of that Surrey strut, but they are all actually just very level-headed, really nice people that just want to work hard and play good cricket. So that stereotype it's easy to cart out, and I can see how people do sort of lean on it when Surrey are doing well. But it's a bit of a frustrating one, I think.
No, that's fine. We won't mention it again, but I was interested to get your views on it. And I do agree. I think that, I think sometimes we're a bit envious of sides. We should actually celebrate the fact that there's a county which is well run, profitable, producing England players and winning matches. I mean, if that was Notts doing that every year, I'd be thrilled. So, and obviously bringing in the crowd and the live stream. So, no, absolutely. I suppose what I wanted to sort of finish on today is a bit about your thoughts on the county championship and players to look out for. Obviously there's going to be a lot of speculation about England players, England coaches, etc. Going into the new year or new home summer. Who should we be looking out for? Who do you think has a good chance of getting into the red or white ball side, I suppose?
Right, I'll go out because Hector will have a few more of these youngsters than I do. Right, I'm going to come out. First of all, Joel, I interviewed Rory Burns the other day, and I said, "Do you ever think about England anymore?" And he said, "When they drop me, no, I haven't until this morning." And with what's happened at the Ashes, if I walk out there and hit 600s in the first 6 games of the season, you never know. So I'd throw Hamid in there, and I'd throw Dom Sibley in there as well. So on the older players, the one I'd be keeping an eye on is James Coles. I think he is a hell of a talent, that boy. I really think he is a proper cricketer. And I think I'm just going to talk about the championship. I think that it's going to be fascinating the first 6 games of the season, because with what happened at the Ashes, and let's be honest, it was a disaster. And if you go in with plan A and you've been told for 3 years that's the way you play, and then all of a sudden you're trying to change it halfway through a series, it's not going to work. And we saw that. Australia, literally, I thought Australia were great because basically England were playing almost their second team at points, but all they did was just sat there and wait for England to blow up. So that happened. So those first six rounds of the season are going to be very, very interesting. It's obviously going to be dependent on who's in charge as well, but I can't see England players not being made available to play in that would be such a bad look after what happened in the Ashes. So I think they're going to have to play. I think Notts will see a bit of Duckett, which is a good thing, really good thing. But I would say for your likes of Burns, Sibley, Hamid, if you walk out there for those first 6 games of the season and knock out 500s, I think they've still got a chance, if I'm honest with you, which I think is the way it should be. It's become almost a closed shop now. And that's not what it should be about. It really shouldn't. If you're playing championship cricket and you start the summer knowing whatever I do, I'm not going to get in the England side, that is not the way it should be. So I think it's under pressure, the championship, definitely. But now those England players have to play some championship cricket to get themselves in nick as much as anything for a test series that will be coming up.
I agree. I think this is the sort of first summer in a couple, maybe a few seasons, that county players can look at this going, I play well and I'm in with a shot here. One person I'm definitely looking at is Jordan Cox. He just done an interview with George DeBell, actually, where he made perfectly valid point. He said, spoken to selectors a few months ago, they say just keep scoring runs, and he's out there scoring runs every game. So he sort of said, what more do you want from me? So I imagine he'll be pretty explosive early in the summer. In terms of the bowling, one person I'd be really interested in, not necessarily sort of he's going to be in an England shirt in this summer, but I'd just like to see how Sonny Baker goes after, obviously he's with Hampshire now, gone from Sussex, and I was in Ireland when he had that debut. He had that debut against South Africa. He's had a really tough start to his international career, but from
no. All I was going to say is I'm not surprised, poor kid, in the fact that just because he was quick. Now we saw him here, and he was quick and he bowled nicely, but all of a sudden, because he bowled quick, it was people were talking about him going on the Ashes tour at one point. He's another one. He's got to play championship cricket. Now my theory there as well with him is, if he doesn't, is he just going to go down the white ball route? I don't know.
Wow.
But he's a talent, but he doesn't, again, he hasn't bowled enough. And that showed up when he played, and he's a talent, but he's got to play more cricket. And this is the thing. That we were talking about Ralphie. These lads have to play. They have to play. You have to be an extremely good player to not be playing and then go in and score runs or take wickets. And I'm talking about the experienced pros here as well with England. It's a big thing to not play 4-day stuff and then go into a test series. You need time in the middle. So yeah, it always worries me when I see a kid bowling quick. It always worries me because I think, here we go. All the fuss is going to start. It's going to be, oh my God, is this the new whatever? No. Let them play some championship stuff and then go down that route.
One thing I can say about Sonny, though, is that we did a press conference with him after that debut. Obviously, most people are going to be pretty down about it, but he wants to play a lot of cricket. He wants to play red ball. I think his dream is to win an Ashes, which is a great sign. And he's definitely not the finished product. But
that's everybody's dream.
No, but a lot of people now are switching to white ball, and as you said, you're worried that he might move into white ball. But I do think he really wants to play red ball. So he's someone that I'd like to see how he goes and how successful he is just in the county circuit.
The other thing, can I just say, Joel, before he keeps going, Josh Tongue needs to be the leader of England's attack as well in Test. There is. I don't even know why there's an argument about this now. He out and out should be leading the England attack in Test match cricket without a doubt, because how he didn't play in those first couple of Test matches in the Ashes is completely beyond me, really. So yeah, I would say that he needs to be the leader of England's attack in Test cricket. Sorry, Hector.
Sorry, Chelsea. And then just two quick ones. Obviously, Thomas Rue. He's his brother James is just extended for 3 years. He'll obviously be in the first team. I think Thomas Rue should break in, and it'll be interesting to see how he goes. Caleb Falconer as well, one from the under-19s that he hasn't made his debut yet for Middlesex, but you'd expect with how they're shaping up that he'll play quite a bit. So those two as the youngsters, and then just interestingly wise, I'd like to see Jordan Cox and Sonny Baker go well early in the season.
Yeah, so I'm only taking the mickey here, but really what Hector's saying is he'd like the England under-19 team that he covered in Zimbabwe to be the England test team for the opening test of the season.
Yeah,
that's what he's saying.
Brilliant. Well, some good names there and ones to look out for, certainly. Gents, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really interesting. And I'd again mention the fact that, really enjoying your podcasts, Sunday service with Church and Vickers, some great guests. And I know you got a good one lined up for this week as well. So I'm looking forward to listening to that later on. And hopefully, we're obviously playing Surrey twice this year. So I hope, might have to get again nearer the time to see how they're faring and how both sides are preparing for that match. So, but I'll let you go and enjoy your time off. Only a few weeks, pretty much just over a month to go now, so not long.
Well, Joel, all I'd say is thank you for asking us on. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been lovely to have a chat with you, and thank you as well for your words about the podcast, because that means a lot to us. So thank you very much indeed, my friend, and maybe we can have a chat again once we're into the season and Surrey are playing Nottinghamshire.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Joe.
You love that. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for listening. We'll be back again with a very special episode early next week, so look out for that. Okay, take care.